Thank you for joining us today. Our topic today is about workforce recruitment and retention, a very difficult topic at the moment. Being a business owner myself and a CEO of a large women's healthcare organization, I can tell you it's extremely challenging. So I'm so happy and eager to hear what these women have in their pockets that might be helpful. Let me ask you, start off by recruitment. How important is the hiring plan, and what could this look like for a small business?
Everybody's scared to go first. So when it comes to a hiring plan, this was actually a really interesting question as I was thinking about these. And I'd like to start by saying that I think it will be challenging for all of us to respond to these questions in a way that's completely personalized for every single business model and every single business leader that's here. But I believe we're probably all going to attempt to, offer some value. And if there's something afterwards that you guys want more information on, I think I can speak for the group in saying, please approach us so we can give you some more information. But when I think about a hiring plan, I think it really does depend on the type of business leader you are, the type of business model that you have, and what it is that you are providing. What I would suggest is the first thing that you need to do is analyze your business model. What do you need? Like when it comes to employees, like what do you need? Where do you need them, and when do you need them? Do you have a manufacturing business? Are you a restaurant? Are you providing electrical services? Think about who you need in what spots and when. The next thing I would recommend is ask yourself, if I had a magic wand, how would I fill those spots? So what is ideal for your operations, for your management team, and also for your bottom line? So imagine that you have a magic wand and you can fill each one of those spots. How would you do it in your ideal scenario? Then attempt to fill in those spots. And you're going to get feedback from your existing employees or your employee prospects, and incorporate that feedback and then reiterate and rinse and repeat.
So how do you stand out when you are trying to recruit in this tight market? What methods do you use that are helpful?
I think when it comes to standing out, it's vitally important to understand when you're evaluating your business plan and your hiring plan and your recruitment plan, the target demographic of individuals you're looking to hire, right? So if I am working in an industry where I know the majority of my people are going to come from a certain demographic, how do I appeal to that certain demographic? Nothing we do in hiring and recruitment is one size fits all. We have to go into it with a one size fits one mentality and realize that what is important to one person may not be what is important to the next person. And a lot of ways that we can do that are really just having conversations, just having open conversations with people in that demographic. If I'm looking to hire for a role that I've never hired for before, I will talk to people in that role. I will try to connect with people who are already doing that work and ask them, what is important to you? What do you look for when you are looking for a new job? What is your favorite part of your job? What is the best thing that your employer offers you that really makes you happy to work where you're working?
And so is there a particular site that you find more success when you're posting jobs?
I want to back up just a minute and say amen, amen. Because when I read those questions, I thought, gosh, it depends. Not one size fits all at all. And, a particular place, the thought that came to me, I'm obviously at Texas Tech now not really engaged a lot in hiring. We're a small staff at the regional sites, and I'm very blessed to have good people already. But I have had I've managed larger groups, healthcare related groups, and I can remember a few years back when I was trying to hire at that lowest level in healthcare of the nurse aide, and I remember going to laundromats. I knew every laundromat in the counties that I was covering because I thought wherever people are that are likely to be the kind of people that I'm looking for, I want to put something there that they're going to see. This was for a training program, but it was targeting certified nurse aides, hospitality. So it was targeting people where laundromats was a place where they might be. And so I think that the thought about recruitment just depends so much on who are you looking for, and where are those people going to be?
This is something I'm pretty passionate about, having been in recruitment for quite a long time, and having roles where my sole job was to post on hiring websites and filter through all the results. One thing I will tell you is that anyone who is asking you for money to promote or bump your job is probably not the place where you're going to find your best candidates. It's such a lucrative industry now to charge you to bump your post up on LinkedIn or on Indeed or on any of those platforms. But the best candidates that I have gotten are just like Celia has said, by being out in the community and talking to folks, figuring out who needs a job, where the need lies, and really focusing big time on training and development. So when you're in your business plan, I love what you said about the magic wand and just really focusing on what is my ideal candidate. I think in this economy and the way that our workforce is right now, we have to really lean into training and development. Maybe the magic wand doesn't mean a candidate that has been doing this thing for 10 years. Maybe it's someone who's really coachable. Maybe it's someone who really is passionate about the work that we're doing and really wants to learn, and that you can then mentor. So if you're, looking at a way to post a job, which I think everyone definitely will have to do, right? You need a system that you can track candidates and even direct people who you meet to apply to. I highly recommend for any service industry related role, Poached is what I like to use. It's super quick, it's really user friendly, and for the demographic of service industry individuals that are working, that's where they look. Again, you can post those jobs on LinkedIn, but those people that you're looking for are not on LinkedIn, typically. So find out where those people are at, work with your local colleges, your local workforce solutions, workforce commission, and really try to find the people who are looking for work. And then the other thing I like to do is just go out in the community and other communities. I live in San Antonio currently, and I commute into Fredericksburg for work. And anytime I am between here and Fredericksburg and I stop in Bernie and get a coffee at a Starbucks, I'm in there, I'm talking to those baristas, I'm saying, hey, you love to barista? I've got a coffee shop. If you would love to work in Fredericksburg, come on out, and we've got you. And really trying to show the other communities around us what we have to offer here, and finding people who are already doing a great job in the role that they're doing, and seeing if we can entice them with.
Well, it's funny you should say that. So I was getting some routine blood work the other week, and we're so short of medical assistants or front desk. And I loved her attitude. I loved that she was showing up for me, and she was not making any shortcuts. And so I say to her, and I'm thinking, this girl could go far. She shouldn't just be a phlebotomist. So I say to her, here's my card. If you want to look for a promotion, here it is. And sure enough, she called us and she got a job. So, I'll go to clothing stores, and if I see the right attitude and that they don't just dismiss you, or like Hobby Lobby, these are like the best places for customer service, by the way. And it works out for me. Also, I stalk people on LinkedIn. I just thought you should know. I'm the CEO, I'm not HR, but I tend to look for my, management team on LinkedIn. And then also TWC is really a good source, and TMA, because I'm in healthcare. So I just wanted to throw that out. I'm guilty. So the other question I have is, what do you do when you can't offer monetary incentives? Are there other things that we could throw in there so that they can get tempted to make a shift in their job?
Yeah, I would say if you're in a position where, funding is tight, who hasn't been there, right? Ways to incentivize your employees is to acknowledge them. That goes a long ways, and also provide opportunities for coaching. I've found with the business owners that we work with, sometimes when you have an employee who acts out and they do something that just misses the mark a little bit, that's a huge teachable moment. And just like they say in customer service, when a company does something wrong and the customer is upset, that's a huge opportunity to earn customer loyalty. And I think that the same thing applies when you're looking at an employee. So when you have an employee that just misses the mark a little bit, you have a huge opportunity to make a big impact in coaching that individual into the type of employee that you're looking for. However, I know that those instances can be frustrating. And as business leaders, we're all, pressed for time and overwhelmed, and we have a bunch of stuff happening. And I think that if we can use those coachable moments as kind of a reminder that, oh, here's another human being, and here's an opportunity we have to connect with that human being and acknowledge them for the amazing work that they're doing and provide them with some helpful feedback that's going to allow them to go further. I think that connection is something that you can provide employees that's not monetary in value, but it's certainly an investment of your time and your emotional intelligence.
Can I?
I got to amen that again, because I think that really moves us into not just finding people, but also keeping them. So the retention issue, and the thing that I would say more, exactly what you've said so well, Katie, is that how you value and express gratitude to your employees, even when it's a teachable moment because they've done something less than what you want. So I really think that when it comes to finding people and keeping them, that how we manage them. And one of the things that really stands out to me, and this goes back to the work that I was doing at the time with the workforce training grant, is I didn't want to give employees off to an organization if I didn't feel comfortable that their supervisors were also living that kind of culture of valuing employees. So if you're in a large enough organization to have yourself trying to set the culture, I think it's really important that you also look at how is that replicated throughout. How are my supervisors reinforcing that coaching, that appreciation, that watching for the teachable moment? Because I think a lot of times successful entrepreneurs build an organization, and as it grows, you may or may not have all the intention that you want replicated throughout that organization. That's to me, that's a really important aspect. And that's how you stand out, is that you say, I've created this culture, we've created this culture where people want to be. And yes, we may not have the incentives that would really hold them there. That healthcare organization I was working for, I had people come to me to be hired because I was going to pay 25 cents more an hour. And that's not the kind of organization that I want to run.
I think if you would have asked me this question, excuse me, about 6 months ago, I would have answered it completely differently. I would have said, give them ownership, give them opportunity to lead and grow and be more than what the job is that we're hiring for. And my answer changed recently when I went to a small restaurant that my company, it's in my company's portfolio in Austin. It's called Little Ola's Biscuit Shop. It's a really sweet little biscuit shop in Austin, and our executive chef, Michael Fotoger, runs it. And I was talking to the manager there, and we have a lot of the same ideas on leadership and hiring and retention, and we were just talking all about that. And I expressed, how are you giving your employees opportunity to grow, and how are you coaching and mentoring? And I think all of those things are super valuable. And she said, Amanda, these people have lives and kids outside of this job. They don't want more responsibility. They want to do their job. They want to be able to provide for their families, and then they want to go home. And I think it really reiterated to me the point that we've all been saying all along, which is this is not a one-size-fits-all process. We have got to know what the demographic of our people that we're looking for want, what is important to them. A really great resource I'd love to recommend on this is a book called The Remix by Lindsay Pollock. It talks all about generational needs in the workforce. Highly recommend giving that a read. And I also wrote something down from a book that I'm reading now that I wanted to share that I think really highlights this well. It's a book called Song of Significance by Seth Godin. He just released it in May. If you haven't read Seth Godin, read this book and read Purple Cow. They're really, really great books on business and culture. And this whole book is about creating the best job that anyone has ever had, right? If you're working the best job that you've ever had, you don't have a reason to look elsewhere. But realizing that that means something different for everyone is really important. And so Seth went around and polled thousands of people in 90 different countries to find out the top 4 things that were important to people. And surprisingly, money was not up there on that list. The conditions for being the best job that someone has ever had: number 1, I surprised myself at what I could accomplish. Number 2, I could work independently. Number 3, we built something that was important. And number 4, there was mutual respect within my organization. So I think universally, if we can focus on those core 4 things and make sure that we are giving a voice to our people and hearing what it is that they need, because maybe we do get in to our day-to-day and our associates express to us, hey, I know we have these holidays that we are getting, but I'm not able to take those holidays on those days because for one reason or another the business is busy, or for one reason or another I would prefer a floating holiday. And it's the flexibility to be able to get in there and say, okay, let's evaluate this. Can we make this a floating holiday that these folks can take at their convenience or when they need it? And really trying to adjust our standard and core procedures as best as possible to be adaptable to the needs of our team.
I completely agree with you, Amanda. That rigidity in this day and age is not going to work for you. All your HR policies will have to be flexible if you want to retain them. And one other thing I wanted to add was simple things like we had COVID going on, as you know, and we had employees who got sick, and this new generation doesn't believe in savings. And so I immediately volunteered to provide my PTO to cover their pay, because otherwise they can't pay their rent. That little notion apparently went a long way, and to this day that employee thanks me 3 years later. She's still with us, which is huge for someone in front desk. Usually they change jobs with every quarter, differential in pay. Or I try to keep a really fine line between personal and professional, but then when one of my management teams is having personal issues, guess who's sitting there listening and just listening and listening, trying to make sure she knows I care, and I do care. So those little things you may think is kind of a waste of time or not really important. They do pay attention. Having said that, let me ask you about Fredericksburg. It must be hard to recruit people to Fredericksburg. How do you do it? Do you have transportation? What do you do? Does anyone know? Okay, never mind. Okay.
Well, let me suggest something, because when you were talking about recruiting, the word that, as I was thinking about this panel, the word that kept coming to me is partnerships. Because there are organizations out there, Amanda mentioned Workforce Solutions, there are organizations out there that share your goal of putting people to work, and they have supplemental funding that may provide training if it's needed. They may address some of the barriers, like transportation, like childcare, where it's available. And so I think partnerships are a key in Fredericksburg. And I will tell you that if you're looking for employees, not necessarily degreed employees, and I will tell you as Texas Tech, there are not a lot of positions that people are looking for people with degrees. So I sometimes feel a little useless in this community. But in any event, the high school has some wonderful career tech programs and students that may be candidates coming out of things like entrepreneurship or hospitality, retail, that are going to be looking for positions. So a good partnership would be there. I'm looking right at Penny, and the Chamber has a job posting website. So the Workforce Solutions, the high schools, the Chamber, look for those partners who share your goal of trying to find people to come to work.
This is I think anyone who's had to hire in Fredericksburg all had a little chuckle right now, because it's the question, right? How we have a great business plan, we have a great culture, we have a great product. How do we get the people? And it's something that I've been trying to wrap my brain around for the last year. I will say and acknowledge it is difficult. It is one of the most difficult things about my job. My job is incredibly rewarding, and that part of it is also incredibly difficult. Some things that I can recommend that I've kind of found out along the way. When I went into having to hire a large amount of people, and we're still in the process of that, obviously. Anyone who knows Albert Hotel construction woes knows that I've had a little bit more time to ramp up. And I should just say this in the group. The question that everyone is going to come ask me is when we open, and I will ask it right back to you. I don't know. That's a great question. When are we going to open? When I first came, I said, let me look at the challenges. Like, what are the challenges here? Transportation is a big one, right? We know that a great number of people who are in that Gen Z, even millennial age range aren't living in a household that has more than one car. A lot of them are sharing cars between themselves. A lot of them don't have a car at all. So how do we address that? So Alamo City Council of Governments, ACOG, is something that you should definitely look into. They will provide transportation within the rural counties of Texas. So say someone lives in Johnson City and they need to commute to work in Fredericksburg. They can do that for $6 per way. And the way that they do that is they contact ACOG, they get themselves set up with an account, there's an app, and they can schedule their rides up to 2 weeks in advance. They recommend, obviously, scheduling it as early as you can to make sure they have enough drivers and enough coverage. But then those people can get to and from work safely at a discounted rate, and it's really helpful for those commutes between Fredericksburg, Kerrville, Fredericksburg, Johnson City, Fredericksburg, Comfort. When it comes to areas like San Antonio and Austin, they don't service those larger metropolitan areas. So my recommendation to those folks has been, hey, if you have a friend who lives in Kerrville or Comfort and that's closer than work, ride there and y'all, get a ride together, which is even cheaper because if you only take one ride, it's per ride, not per rider. So if they were to carpool, they could split that between them. So that's a really great resource. Housing is another big thing, and what I will say about housing is the most effective way to combat housing issues in Fredericksburg is I spent 2 weeks just going from apartment complex to apartment complex, shaking hands, exchanging business cards, getting information, letting those folks know we have employees who are interested in housing. If you email me and shoot me an email as soon as you have something available, we might be able to fill those faster than if you have to post them. It saves them money, it saves them time, and creating those partnerships have been a really great way to know kind of the overall occupancy levels of each of these apartments. They're not always full all the time. There are openings. It's just about finding the gap in the openings, and when there's a gap one place, there's probably not a gap at another place, so it's having those relationships.
That's really smart.
I echo these women's sentiments. There's some really great resources on the Texas Workforce Commission website and the Office of the Governor. And I do know that Enterprise Rental Car is doing a shared ride service. So if you have shift workers, that could be a resource for you. Hit me up and I can get you more information. But I do want to share a statistic. I think that we've all heard the difference between like a buyer's market and a seller's market when it comes to real estate, right? So we all know conceptually what that means. I would suggest that we are right now currently in an employee market. And the reason why is because if you look at some statistics that were recently published, I do have a copy of this report. If anybody's interested in it, get with me later and I'll get you more information. But there are statistics that show that we have 4 million immigrant visas that are currently in process. We have 4 million people that can't work because their visas are being processed. We have 6 million disengaged workers who want to come back to work, but for some reason are unable to come back to work. And we have 11 million jobs. So if we were somehow able to get those 4 million immigrants to work, get those 6 million disengaged workers back to work, we still have a 1 million person shortage. So to me, that suggests that we are in an employee market. So as business leaders and employers, I think we need to think outside the box and be very creative about where these employees are coming from, because they're not widgets. We're not going to be able to wave a magic wand and just get them to file into our companies and fill the seats.
And by the way, birth rates are going down tremendously. So the population decrease, this is exactly what we need to look for. Can I ask you about, so my business, healthcare, my employees have to show up. They have to be there in person. They have to take the blood pressure or, help the patient, or the doctor has to see them. And I'm competing with businesses who are allowing employees to work from home. How do I compete with that? How would you recommend we handle that?
That is a tough question, because there are certain jobs where you do have to be there in person, and there's just no replacing that. I would encourage business leaders, again, to take a look at your business model and determine which are those crucial tasks that must be performed in person. Because I think that there are probably a handful of tasks that can be delegated or offloaded or can be creatively resolved that aren't, tasks that must be performed. So take a look at those and delegate whichever ones those tasks are, to make sure that when you do have an employee that's there in person, that they're doing something that's absolutely essential to being there in person. And, stay flexible and be open to reconstructing your business model in creative ways to meet this new employee demand. Again, if this is something that the employees are asking for and we know that there's an employee shortage, what can we do as business owners and leaders to be creative and, attract and retain the best talent?
When I think about the core need of people who are working remotely now, I think it's easy to get sidetracked with, they just want to be home. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just the flexibility that you have from being able, it's just a byproduct, right? We're able to stay home, therefore we're able to drop our kids off and pick them up from school. If we can find the root of why people are sometimes wanting to work at home, I will say myself, I was in a fully remote role before I accepted this role at Albert, and I hated it. I wanted to be engaged and with people, and there are a lot of people like that. But for those who maybe just need some flexibility, how can we work around their schedules and say, hey, we really need you here between these core hours, but you can come in after you drop your kids off at school, and we'll give you a break at 3 to go pick them up and drop them at grandma's or with dad, or and it's also the working independently thing. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but are we giving our employees autonomy? Because autonomy is a huge reason why people want to work from home. So how do we give those things in different ways that aren't, hey, you can stay home?
So in my business, I'm old school, and so I was kind of did not want to go to this work from home, but I have to tell you, I realized it's the way to go a few years ago, and there are softwares out there that will track their progress, the number of keystrokes, how many appointments they made. We get 30,000 calls a month, and so this can all be done off-site, and the surprise was the ones from home did better than the ones in the office. So I'm like, wait, what? Okay, so just be open, but track their progress. I would not tell you to just send them home. Look to see how well they're doing and guide them through the way. One of the most important questions to me is, how do you create culture in an organization?
Well, I think there's been some really good answers to that. I like what Amanda said about be mindful of what your employees' needs are. You talk about it with both flexibility in scheduling as well as flexibility in what is their reason for choosing, and what you've said as well, Katie. And so I think that culture begins with you, if you are the entrepreneur that's beginning that organization, but I think it has to go throughout. And I believe that you are, years and years and years ago, I hate to admit how long I've been doing this work. I read an article that was how the CEO sets the culture. And it is so true still today, is how you respond to people will determine how they feel about their work, how they feel about how they should respond to others. And so I really think that you and any of the frontline managers that you have are responsible for setting that culture. I'd add one other thing that's a little bit related. I've got a leadership class certificate program going now, and I'm having them read a book that comes from the Arbinger Institute called The Outward Mindsets. You triggered that when you suggested a book. And I tell you, that book has really shaped my thinking about how I respond to my employees. Because you start with the question, you know your own objectives, you know what it is that you want. You start with that, but you say, what are the objectives of this individual? What are the objectives of this other company? What are the objectives of this employee that I'm trying to work with? And if you can keep that outward mindset, it will change how you respond to people, and it will grow an organization. I firmly believe this after years of working in leadership development, that it will grow the organization that has that kind of mindset. So I would recommend that book.
I love that book. That's a
Yes,
great recommendation.
yes.
We all have kind of within us a really, I think, for the most part, a really good idea of why we do what we do in the broad picture. But we often fail to put that down on paper and make it a tangible thing. So for creating culture, the first and foremost thing I would say is not only just to know what your goal is, but write it down and create it into either a mission statement or for us, we have a just cause that really narrows and focuses and that you can filter all of your decisions through. A really great book for that to create both a personal just cause and a team one is a book by Simon Sinek called Find Your Why. Highly recommend that. He also writes The Infinite Game, which is a lot like the book that you referenced as well, Celia. And start there, right? We have to, even if we understand what we're doing, we have to be able to put it into words so that others can then follow. And then it's about just casting your vision really, really quickly. Your vision, the person that you're interviewing, by the end of their interview, should have a really good idea of what your vision is for your company. And you should have a really good idea by the end of the interview process, however many interviews that might be, whether or not that person fits into that vision. It works both ways. They try you on for size, you try them on for size, and some people won't be a fit, but filtering it through that just cause or that mission statement is super important.
Wonderful. We're trying to wrap up. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to add quickly just a different perspective on what both of these women are saying, which I totally agree with, is the idea that as a business leader, I believe that we have the opportunity to create the container that culture goes into, and remember that your employees are the ones that will fill that container. And so when they bubble up an idea or an illustration of the company culture that's not quite what you envisioned, just remember to measure that against, your mission statement, your value statement, and see, maybe this is that thing, but it's just not what I would have thought of. Because it is a feedback loop where you have an opportunity to co-create with your employees.
Yeah, certainly is. At this point, I wanted to put it out to the audience to see if they have any questions. I'm happy to walk around with the microphone. Anyone have any questions for the panelists? Let me just come down.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Whitney Kuh. I actually live here in Fredericksburg. I'm one of the owners of Mustard Design Architects. And I had a question for the panel and maybe for the group too. We struggle with remote work. You guys talked a little bit about determining what's essential for a staff member to be in an office environment or physical setting. We are an office of professionals. Everybody that we hire, we kind of have a saying is, I'm looking to train my replacement. That's my job as an architect. That's my job as a business owner. What I find is when I work with remote staff, I lose that connection. I lose the desire to buy into our company, to be excited about what we do and try to advance it. I find that staff member really just does their job and goes home, which is fine for most part, but as an architect and as a professional, I want more than that. So is there opportunities in remote work where you could see that to be strengthened, or any other advice you could provide?
Definitely, I think so. A question that I would propose to you is, when you're hiring your remote workers, have you had an opportunity to communicate exactly what you just said to us?
Can I take a little bit of a diversion from that? Because most of our students at Texas Tech at our regional sites are online students. And we offer a very small number of in-person classes. But to me, I work very hard to build a sense of community among those students. And that means I try to get them to come in. I get them to come in for advising, come in for a class, come in for an event, and experience that community. So it may be that you remain very much remote, but look for those opportunities to build more of a sense of community. That's what I struggle to do.
Yeah, I think really leaning into hybrid work and not viewing it this as an all or nothing, and really it's almost a negotiation with our associates, right? Like, hey, you're coming to me and saying, here's what I want. I can't give you 100% remote, but I can give you 3 days of remote and 2 days in the office. Or I can give you, if you live in a different state, I can mandate that you come in twice a month to team build with us and to partner with us. What I will say is it's a win-win situation for you. I'm going to phrase it like that, because either you open and broaden your hiring possibilities so you're able to include more talent that doesn't live near you, and perhaps get architects who have a really great skill set that they can bring to the team, or you narrow it, and then you only have those few, but it's a strong core, right? And so really determining what's the most important to your people. And if that's something really important to you, I highly encourage you to bring that up with your leadership team and say, hey, I'm missing this in work, because they're going to want to know that goes into retention.
Okay, we need to wrap up. Thank you so much, ladies. This was very informative. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.